email? What does it mean?
Communication is the imparting or exchanging of information or news.
The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place.
Conversation is the oral exchange of sentiments, observations, opinions, or ideas.
Forbes Books Radio presents The Conversation with Clinton M. Padgett.
Joining me on The Conversation today is Cindy Cookson. Cindy is the Vice President of Global Product Line Management at the Gates Corporation, a global leader in power transmission and fluid power products and services. Cindy has been with Gates for over a decade, but prior to that, she spent 10 years in various roles at Michelin, eventually serving as a plant manager. She has a bachelor's degree in industrial engineering from Kansas State and a dual master's degree in industrial engineering and operations research from NC State. I'm also an ACC guy, so we got that going for us.
Nice.
Cindy, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
So I'm a Georgia Tech grad, so we're ACC people.
We'll leave that there.
Yeah, we'll leave that. Yeah, it's all good. I can even do your little, what is it? Your thing, right? Yeah, that one. Yeah, I see it all the time.
Go Pack.
Go Pack. Today I'll be Go Pack. So I like to think of all of my guests as superheroes, and all superheroes have an origin story. So what's yours? How did you get to where you are today? Tell us about your background.
I grew up in a small town in Kansas. My mom was a teacher and my dad worked in a foundry. And not to go all the way back, but really kind of starting from the beginning of my career, I suppose. When I was in high school, I was like, what am I going to do next? And, I played sports in high school. I thought, maybe I'll do something in sports. I'll be a athletic trainer. And I had a guidance counselor that was like, that's not what you want to do. Think about the things that you're good at and the things that you enjoy as a career, what motivates you. And you might like sports as a hobby, but think about a career. And luckily I had this guidance counselor who had me do these interest inventories and kind of think about what types of skills I would like to have or what responsibilities I wanted to have and guided me into engineering. And to be honest, I had no idea what engineering was. I knew I didn't want to be a teacher. I knew I didn't want to work in a foundry, but, that was kind of that's as far as my career research had gone. So I ended up going into engineering and specifically industrial engineering, which for those that don't know what that is, it's kind of the people side of engineering. It's how people and processes work together. And it was, a really great fit, but I would have never found it if I didn't have a guidance counselor who kind of pointed me in that direction. So thank goodness for teachers and guidance counselors.
they do serve a purpose, don't they?
Yeah. But then throughout my career, I went to undergrad and graduate school for engineering and then, started my professional career at Michelin. And that whole time, I think I really took advantage of opportunities that were given to me, or not just given to me, but went out and found opportunities to do internships to really understand what I like to do. And I discovered I like kind of working with my hands and I have appreciation for tangible stuff. So that's why I like working in manufacturing. We make products you can hold in your hand. And I think that's, it brings me a lot of satisfaction to be able to kind of see the fruits of my labors,
right. Not
just see them on a financial statement, but physically hold them in my hands.
For sure. As an engineer myself, I totally get that comment. So and having spent time in some foundries, I prefer not to work in places that can kill me just by walking in the wrong place. So
yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, right.
I totally feel your pain there. So according to the website, the Gates Corporation is a leading manufacturer of application-specific fluid power and power transmission solutions. Can you tell us a little bit more, dig into that for us? What's the history? What kind of products do you make? Clients do you have? And ultimately, what makes you really proud to be a part of the corporation?
Yeah, absolutely. So Gates Corporation is more than 100 years old. We are a Denver-based company, started in 1911 in downtown Denver. We were originally the Gates Rubber Company because we made things out of rubber products. The first big product we had was a V-belt. So, V-belts transmit power in clutching applications, and it's just traditional industrial power transmission. And, since then we've evolved and we do synchronous belts for automotive, timing belts in your car or accessory drive belts. If you like using your air conditioning in your car, that's a Gates type of a product. We also make, fluid power products, which is typically thought of as hoses, and not exactly like hoses that you use at your house, like a garden hose, but more like hoses that are transmitting power or even conveying, industrial products like flour or beer or chemicals or concrete, kind of exotic things. So we were known as Gates Rubber Company for a long time. Maybe 15 or 20 years ago, we changed our name to the Gates Corporation because we make lots of things that aren't just rubber products. But we make the rubber products like belts and hoses, and then the stuff that they touch. So like hoses need couplings, the metal parts that are on the ends of couplings. So we make the hose, but we also make the couplings. For belts, we make the belt itself, but we also make the tensioners and idlers and sprockets that touch those belts. So we're really a system or a solutions provider, not just making hose and belts, but making the whole system that they go into. Who are our clients? Like, we have big name clients. We also have tons of distributors, like, big users, small users, but lots of OEs, automotive OEs, industrial OEs, like John Deere or Case New Holland or JCB, like lots of big names that everybody's heard of. But then also lots of small guys, like, we have there's a plant in Mexico that makes Tupperware, and we have hoses that go into that plant to help make Tupperware. And so, our products are just used everywhere. I think that's one of the things I really like. You open up your garage, there's Gates products all over that. Maybe you had a cup of coffee from a Nespresso machine this morning. A Gates belt helped make that cup of coffee. Maybe you rode a bike to work today and your bike had a belt drive system on it. That's a Gates product. So we're everywhere. I think that's kind of cool that, like, we're a big company that lots of people have never heard of because we make components that are inside stuff that you don't always see.
Okay. No, that's cool.
Yeah. And I really like this, we have over 100 years of history of really being an innovation leader. We're a leader in all the markets where we operate. And I think it's fun that we're leading with innovation. So we're constantly pushing the envelope on new technology and new products. And I really like that about the company. We keep investing and trying to stay ahead of the curve.
Innovation, non-squeak belts, right? Nothing worse than get in my car and hear the belt squeaking, like, I got to get this fixed.
Right? Yeah, definitely. Hopefully that's not a Gates belt.
I'm sure it's not. I'm sure it's some bad competitor. Can you talk about a time in your career, a project you worked on, whether at Michelin or Gates, where you and your team encountered a big obstacle? And then how did you overcome it? What was the outcome?
Good question. So kind of in recent history, I, as a product line manager, I get the opportunity to look at gaps in the market and look at opportunities in the market and say, how do we help solve these problems for our customers? And how do we do it with our products? And, I mentioned Gates sells. So my product line specifically is in that hose space, the fluid power space. And we make the hoses and the couplings, but we also make the machines that put them together. They're called crimpers. And, so we saw this opportunity in the space that a hose has a Gates name on the hose, a Gates name on the coupling, and then we're relying on this third party to put it together. And it's high pressure hydraulics. It's really important that it's done correctly because there's kind of a safety element in there. And so we said, well, how can we make it easier for these end users to make sure they're making factory quality assembly? And these customers also oftentimes have a lot of turnover. Magnified during the pandemic, that there was lots of turnover in people's employment base. So how do we make sure that we take all the guesswork out of this fabrication? So we developed this new product, a new crimper called the GC20 Cortex crimper. So when we developed it, it was introduced as kind of a minimum viable product, right? Like, we did field trials. Everything was safe. We had lots of it, a whole technical roadmap that we wanted to implement on features and benefits we wanted to put into that product. But we couldn't wait to get the perfect product to launch. We had to have this minimum viable product, and we could add all the bells and whistles later. So we did field trials. We launched it. And, in the first 6 months, it was a little rough. We saw that customers were not having the experience with the crimper that we really wanted. And so, that big obstacle is, okay, customers have these now, and we want to keep selling them. We want customers to have a good experience, we need to rapidly innovate. So it was a pretty exciting time. I mean, I look back and think, oh, what great lessons we learned at the time. At the time it was rough, right? Because we were trying to rapidly make the experience better for the users, make the experience better for our field sales teams and our application engineers. And, over time, I think we now have sold thousands of these machines. They're in use all over, and they drive a lot of value for our end users. So, I mean, I think we overcame the obstacles, but it was all hands on deck for hardware, for software, for training, for, Bluetooth, so all sorts of kind of digital things. So, it was a really great time in my career because I got to see something from conception all the way to launch and then post-launch. You kind of think of launching a product as like the end, but no, launching the product's like 20% through the really new product introduction cycle. So
it's maybe the end for the production for the project team, but then after that, there's a whole lot of iteration stuff that goes on as it moves into the traditional.
Yeah, I think we get to keep innovating too, because now that the platform's stable, we're able to add great features that are really going to drive additional value for our customers. So I think it's exciting to have a really strong platform to build upon. It was just there were some growing pains in getting there.
And that's out in the market now with the newest iterations and no more growing pains.
Well, the beauty of a cloud-based platform is that we can keep making updates over time. So now if you have the platform, it's cloud-based, you download, or it's kind of like an app, it pushes the updates, and you can have all the new information at your fingertips, all the new features at your fingertips. It's great.
Nice.
Yeah.
What are some of the most noteworthy product or industry innovations you've seen and been a part of in your career?
Well, I just mentioned the GC20 Cortex crimper. I mean, another one that's kind of more on the hose side was a hose we launched in 2018 called MXT. So MXT, we were with the launch of MXT, we were able to leverage Gates materials science, some new process technologies, and some new designs, and kind of put that all together to come up with a new hose in the market. And let me be honest, the industrial space is a little bit slow, right? Like it's not like the tech industry where we're seeing like new products introduced every 3 months. It's more like, every 3 years or something. Maybe even not even that frequent that we're introducing new products. So we were able to come up with this product that we thought, okay, this product meets all the same performance as an old product, but it's lighter weight and it's more flexible and it's compact and it meets all these different industry standards. Like, this is the next best thing since sliced bread. And as we're developing, we're like, ooh, this could be big. And, it turns out it has been big. We've sold hundreds of millions of dollars of this hose around the world with Gates. And as we were developing it, I remember there were a lot of people who were a little dubious, like, and do you really need to be doing something new? If it's not broke, don't fix it. And we did feel like we needed to be doing something new because we were looking at trends in the market. We were looking at what problems our customers were trying to solve and saying, well, how can Gates help be part of that solution? So, we talked to some of our big OEMs, and they're trying to reduce the weight of some of their equipment. And this is like, big industrial equipment, combines and excavators, big stuff. And you're like, oh, how much do the hoses really weigh relative to the total platform? And how important is that? And, we had people in one ear saying, it's not important at all. Like, no one cares about lightweight. Stop talking about it. And then the other ear, we have, but if we can have a little bit of an impact, could that be the difference between a customer using our product and a competitor? And the answer is yes, it does. And it also has had all these additional ramifications, not just, okay, so we'll take the lightweight as an example. I was told it's not important. I think there's something there. Let's move forward with this. It's important for customers who want to reduce the fuel used in their equipment. Because it's lightweight, it's cheaper to ship. Because it's lightweight, it uses less material. That's less energy in the manufacturing process. Like, we're getting into all this green stuff now too, which we saw from the launch of like kind of why we wanted to introduce it. And we just made that bet that people would care about it. And now it's part of our mainstream conversation now of all of the kind of green benefits of some of our products.
Yeah, it still does the job, right? That's the most important part. Is it still work?
Yeah, it's still, it's funny too. You know, we talk about performance and not just, I mean, I think you could generalize this, not just in like my, my industry, but generally in performance. Performance means different things to different people. So like for a hose, is it the number of cycles or how long it will last or how it resists abrasion or how much it weighs? Like performance means different things to everybody. And so, when we're developing products, I think that it's got to get the job done, but it can't just get one job done. It has to get lots of jobs done because, you know, that people are going to be using our products in all sorts of different ways. Right.
Yeah, I remember a different project that I was working on. It talked about people define things differently. They were behind schedule and they're supposed to be a 100-hour engine test. And so somebody said, well, can't we just run 100 engines for 1 hour each? Like, no, that's not how it works. That's not the reliability we're looking for.
But I like their ingenuity. I mean, looking at a problem from a different angle. Wow, that's a good skill set, you know?
It is. Didn't work there, but It's a good skill set. Over the last 10 or 20 years, there's been a global push towards greener energy, like you were just talking about, cleaner emissions, including a shift away from gas-powered cars to electric power. And how has this shift affected your industry and your job? And what kinds of things has Gates done to adapt to this new environment?
Well, your question's pretty timely because we just published our 2022 sustainability report. So this is all kind of fresh in my mind right now. So I think Gates has long had kind of this history of innovation, and the innovation maybe is a little bit more focused now on sustainability. We were doing some of this stuff before, but how we're framing it up and thinking about it is a little bit more purposeful now. In particular, we have this eco-innovation model. So it incorporates some of our core capabilities like material science, process technologies, product design, but we're using those to drive product performance, also operational performance. So like the products we're producing, but also how we make them. And with our eco-innovation approach, we're being a little bit more specific in that whole product life cycle from, our engineers are looking at it from the concept to the design to the materials we select to how we manufacture it, but going all the way through to how that product is used and what happens at the end of that product's life. And we're looking through that whole value chain for innovation. So not just looking at how we develop a product, but like the whole thing. And so I think we're way more purposeful now about how we do that. And I say now, I mean, this is not just the last year, but the last many years. And we're talking about it more. I also think it's super important to our customers. Every customer, I visit lots of customers, and all of our customers are caring about this too. They're interested in partnering with suppliers who are, responsible and have this eco innovation or these kind of green initiatives. And they care about how the product is being developed, but also how they're using it. So, if they can buy a green product, then that might make them more likely to buy from Gates. But they also, if that product helps them achieve their green goals, reduce their energy consumption, or meet some of their goals, I think that's helpful to that customer as well. So it's this whole cycle that we're really focusing on. So we're launching products, but also innovating on our manufacturing processes to make sure we're kind of attacking this eco innovation from both sides. In fact, right at a year ago, I think it was July of 2022, we established a technical center in Europe that is focused on our thermal management solutions, which are really solutions for the electric vehicle platform and just electric platforms in general. So thermal management is really important for electric vehicles, cooling batteries, and Gates has a whole innovation platform around that. And we're backing it up with this technical center.
Okay. Where in Europe, by the way?
It's in Turkey.
Turkey. All right.
Yeah.
So as you move up in your career, you're asked to manage more and more people, which I like the way you described your degree as being, engineering for people, kind of you talking about the people side, even going way back. So how have you succeeded in transitioning from industrial engineer, or maybe it's not a transition anymore since it really was focused, as you said, on people, to more of a people manager as you move up the corporate ladder? And specifically, are there any communication strategies that you've learned along the way that have been helpful in that endeavor?
Yes. I think I have been purposeful in like kind of how I've evolved my leadership skills, including management skills, and communication is a huge part of that. I have this note on my computer. I think it's just an old saying. 2 stonecutters were asked what they were doing. One of them said, "I'm cutting this stone into blocks." And the second replied, "I'm on a team that's building a cathedral." And I think that is so impactful that it's not just like how we're communicating, but also what we're communicating. Getting people involved in the why and communicating why their job is important and how they fit into the bigger picture brings so much engagement and involvement and commitment from our teams. I think a big part of my role, especially as I've grown in a leader, is managing cross-functional teams. And it's even more important with cross-functional teams where everybody sees the bigger picture, not just this small focused thing that you're asking them to do, but how it fits into the project goals, the annual goals, the overall company's strategy. So getting everybody involved in that why, I think is really key.
I liked your example because if I put myself in each of those person's shoes, if I'm just cutting this stone into blocks, then I'm just doing my job and I'm not thinking about how I could do it better. I'm not seeing the end result. I'm really not maybe super motivated other than to be a good worker. But the second person I'm building a cathedral. Now I'm looking at how am I cutting the block? Are there innovations that I can make to make this better? Can I get more blocks out of one piece of stone? I'm seeing the end product. I mean, I'm proud to be a part of that project. So that's such a different engagement level from the person working on the team just based on how they see the project.
Totally. And I think, on the flip side, I can turn that 90 degrees and say, there are some people that, oh gosh, I'm part of a cathedral. Like, oh, that sounds intimidating. And you got to kind of meet people where they are. I'm a person I'm kind of like comfortable in the change space, but everybody's not. And acknowledging that everybody's not, and you got to kind of bring everybody with you on this journey and help them feel comfortable with the changes that we are trying to accomplish. I think it's good to modify too, right? And not treat everybody the same way.
Yeah, I think my experience has been there are 2 kinds of people in the world, if I could bucket them. You have the big picture strategic thinkers who see the cathedral, and you have the people, I'm guilty of that as an electrical engineer myself, of wanting to get down into the weeds. And you have to find that middle ground that says, let me pull the people out of the clouds down a little bit. Let me pull the people in the weeds up a little bit, put us on the same plane to talk about what we're doing. And for that person maybe is overwhelmed by, I'm building a cathedral, you say, all right, look, forget about that. If you'll just do what's on your list of items, if you just get these blocks cut, that's all you have to do. As long as you do that every week or every 2 weeks, we're going to get the cathedral built and you don't have to worry about it. You can just take pride in the fact when it's done.
Yeah. I think I like what you said. Like, one of my classic interview questions is, are you a dreamer or a doer? And there is not a right answer to that. We need both. We need people who are dreamers and we need people who are doers in order to move stuff forward. And I think that it takes all different kinds of people to make this world go round. So it's great to have that diversity.
I think a key skill set is having somebody who can translate between those two sometimes, right? Because the big picture people maybe intimidate the doer people, and the doer people look at the big picture people like, you don't really do anything. To use your words earlier, you like being an engineer because what you create is tangible. So it's tactile. You can feel it, hold it, touch it, carry it. You can see it. And if I take a negative bent on marketing, I might say, well, you're strategic, you get that big picture, blah, 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 fluffy white clouds. But at the end of the day, I did something. And in reality, if I'm building something that can't be sold in the marketplace, we're not making money as a company. And if marketing's out there selling something we can't deliver as engineering, then we're not making money. So you need like you say, you need the big picture strategic thinkers, you need the doer people, and sometimes you need somebody to translate, right?
Yeah. And that translation, it kind of comes back to me, communications as well. But wow, what a powerful skill. I actually, if you were to say what's your superpower, I think that I don't know if I'd call it translation, but that ability to communicate kind of up and down the organization and across the organization to cross-functional teams is definitely up there on my superpowers. I think it's one of the reasons why I've been able to get where I am today.
I think that's a great superpower because I would call it a superpower. I don't think it's very common. And I think it's an important skill to have because you do need somebody that can help each group understand the other group because we don't always speak the same language. different technical languages, different physical languages. So it's helpful to have that buffer in between.
Yeah, good perspective. Yeah.
Well, that concludes part one of my conversation with Cindy Cookson, Vice President of Global Product Line Management at the Gates Corporation. Coming up in part two, Cindy discusses her thought process when leading teams through periods of innovation and change.
So I have this sign. It's for myself, but it's also for my teammates. That, it's a big circle on one side of a piece of paper, and the big circle says your comfort zone. And then on the corner of the paper on the other side is this little bubble that says where the magic happens. And where the magic happens is often not in your comfort zone. And I think that it's important, leadership principles is to try to make everybody comfortable with what you're trying to do. And sometimes you got to get a little bit comfortable being uncomfortable.
Thanks for listening to The Conversation. To find out more about Clint, go to clintonmpaget.com and pick up Clint's book, How Teams Triumph, Managing by Commitment, at Amazon. The Conversation with Clinton M. Paget is a production of Forbes Books.